In this video, I want to introduce you to another architecture for sample and hold. We have basically looked at one architecture which looks like this, right? And this could be called an open and loop sample and hold. An open loop sample and hold architecture. Basically, because there is no feedback. Okay, one of the problems with the open loop um, sample and hold, and which becomes a very prominent problem in some implementations of this kind of architecture, is the pedestal error that we talked about. If you remember, the pedestal error happens because the switch here has a capacitance associated with it, and during the acquisition mode, this capacitance is charged up. But when the hold mode happens, the charge in this capacitor actually gets added to the charge on this capacitor, and therefore our hold voltage does not remain what we want but is distorted. Okay, so is there a way to uh, take this pedestal error away? Okay, and yes, there is, of course. That's why we are talking about it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be discussing this. And one way to do that would be to use what is called the closed loop sample and hold system, as shown here on the screen. So let me just explain this to you. Let's look at the acquisition mode first. The acquisition mode is the mode when this switch is closed. That is, the connection here is connected, right? So when this is connected, this buffer is connected to the entire circuit. And if you remember your op-amp assumptions, this input then, because let's say these are op-amps, so this input will be equal to the voltage at the non-inverting terminal here, which is the same as the voltage here and the output. So basically, Vin will be equal to output. At the same time, the voltage at this point here is what? It is ground, right? Because the voltage here this is connected to ground. So this will be a virtual ground, or this will be at 0 volts. So the charge across, the voltage across this capacitor is basically the voltage V in. Okay. Now what happens when this switch is opened in the hold mode? When this switch is open, this op amp no longer is in the circuit, and this voltage here remains 0, right? It remains 0, and this voltage here is just held at whatever the final value was. Now, this charge here does not affect this capacitance because the voltage here is still maintained at ground. Okay, so the pedestal error is therefore removed in the closed loop sample and hold circuit. So that is one of the advantages of a closed loop sample and hold circuit. Uh, Also, another advantage would be the fact that feed through would be reduced because this voltage is maintained at 0 volts. So this Vin is not able to affect the output as much as it would have affected in the open loop system.